Hi everyone, now there is a lens that I have used consistently for the last 3 years in smartphone filmmaking, and that is Moment's M series 58mm telephoto lens. Now I've used this in just about every single paid project I've had, my own films as well, and I want to find out now if the T series that Moment have sent me of their 58mm telephoto lens is even better with my iPhone 15 Pro, which I'm shooting with right now. If it is, this may be the best lens I've ever used in smartphone filmmaking. So let's find out if it is. By the way, there is a link in the description below for this lens. So this is the 58mm T series telephoto lens by Moment, so let's check it out and see what the build is like. Really nice packaging here from Moment, really like their kind of branding, really looks classy. Get a nice little bag as well for your lens. Now again, you don't get a back cap to the lens, which I really want there to be on all the lenses. And you got felt underneath the cap here, so that'll keep it nice and soft and smooth on the lens, keeping it safe and secure. Now this is an absolutely stunning looking lens. It's considerably bigger than the M series it feels. It feels a lot heavier as well to the touch. Now it's a lot bigger, and you can see that the design itself is similar to the last one. So you got the Moment, got the 58mm label there. And it's very weighty, it feels really big, so it'll be interesting to see the comparison of the weight to the M series, and it does feel very, very well built. It's got the same amount of glass in it, although it's divided into 5 groups rather than 4, and you've got this little sort of edging around the inside here that's not for a filter, but it's, I guess, for the shaping of the light into the lens and then into your sensor. Now let's do a little comparison in terms of the specs between the M series and the T series of the 58mm telephoto lens by Moment. Now seeing them side by side, the M series on the right here is considerably smaller than the T series on the left, and the weight difference is pretty huge as well. So the M series weighs 73.1 grams, whereas the T series weighs 116.5 grams. So it's almost double the weight of this, or at least maybe a third more than the M series at least. And it's a really considerably bigger lens. So with the M series, the minimal focal distance is 7.25 inches, which is 184mm. Whereas with the T series, the actual minimal focal distance for this is going to be 12 inches. So that's 300mm or 30 centimeters. So you do have to be a little bit further away from your subject to get a nice, clean, crisp image. But it's really not that big an issue, especially when you put this with a bigger sensor, because of course you do have a bigger bit of glass on the back to match those sensors of the newest phones to give you that extra depth as well. The test I want to do now is to compare the T series 58mm telephoto lens by Moment to that old M series lens to see how far we've come. Now with the M series I'll be using the iPhone 12, and with the T series I'll be using my iPhone 15 Pro to see how this compares. Now with the iPhone 12 compared to 15 Pro, of course there'll be a bit of depth difference, but you can see here you still get some sense of depth even when you're further away from something like this bridge with the M series. With the T series, it slightly pulls out, and you can see that it just looks a little bit more film-like. I'm also shooting this in log with the 15 Pro, but again, we're looking at the sense of depth that you get with this, and I do feel that this is slightly improved with the T series. In this shot, you can really see the differences between the lenses in terms of one feels a bit more pulled out. With the M series, you get a nice shot here, that focal point, which is of course that log in the middle, stands out really nicely with some blur in the background. And with the 15 Pro with the T series, you feel like it's pulled out just slightly compared to the M series, but you do get an increase in the bokeh effect, which of course is that blur in the background of your subject. It gets really seen here in the bokeh difference as well. With the M series, you get some bokeh in the background, but perhaps not as much as you would like. And then when you use the 15 Pro, which of course has a bigger sensor to give you bigger depth, and the T series of the 58mm telephoto lens, you get an absolute dream shot. That blur effect in the background is dramatically increased, and it looks a lot more film-like. In this shot, you can see when you've got a subject right in the center, which of course is this branch, it looks really clear in the M series lens, and it really isn't a bad lens at all. But they have improved it quite a lot when it goes to the T series. You can see how much clearer the image is. It just looks much more professional, and I really think someone who has a mirrorless camera would really struggle to see the difference between this and a mirrorless camera. In this shot, you can really see the blur background difference, and also you can see how much clearer it is on the image in front of you. The focal point here, of course, is me standing there, but it does look really, really stunning. And you can see here how obviously better the T series lens is compared to the M series when it comes to that bokeh effect and the professional look. Now let's compare the native wide-angle lens of the iPhone 15 Pro to using the T series 58mm on top of it, and then adding that T series 58mm on top of the built-in tele lens. Now the wide angle lens looks quite flat with some depth. Using that T-Series 58mm lens, you already start to see the depth, even when I'm standing quite far away from the lens, at about say 10 feet I would say from the camera here. And then putting that T-Series 58mm on top of the Tele lens, it starts to look really good. It's much closer to the subject, and you can keep really far away too. Now in this shot, you can see a lot of the fence on the left-hand side, a lot of the shrub, the bush on the right-hand side. Moving to that T-Series, you can see how much more zoomed in you get to your subject, whilst keeping that clarity and quality of shot. And when you use it on top of the Tele lens, you've gone from a 2x zoom in essentially to a 4x zoom in, without losing again the quality of shot. Now here with the T-Series 58mm lens, I want to see if you can see what the difference is here that I want you to notice between this and using it on top of the Tele on the Tele. Now here you can see I got pretty close with the Tele on Tele, so I had to pull back to about 6 feet away. But I'll give you a few seconds to see what the difference is between these two lenses that I haven't mentioned yet. As you look at these lenses now, I'll tell you the bokeh effect you get with just having the T-Series 58mm lens on top of the wide angle versus on top of the Tele is absolutely massive. And it's really something that I think is an interesting point to make, that using the T-Series lens on its own on the wide gives you a better bokeh effect than using it on top of the Tele. A really good use for using the T-Series 58mm telephoto lens on top of the Tele though is to actually film nature. Now I don't know about you, but I love to get the phone out when I'm just out and about and film nature when I'm walking through a park or through woods. And putting the 58mm T-Series lens on the built-in Tele lens gives you much closer shot of wildlife, and you don't end up disturbing it and making it go away. Whereas if you're using just a native wide angle lens, you'd have to get super close to an animal or even a person if you're filming for a film or a narrative project. Now let's take a look at the clarity of these images with the T-Series and the sharpness edge to edge. Now I was really nervous having watched iPhoneographer's video where he had one of the OG T-Series lenses that came out to test, and there was a lot of sort of softness in the top right hand corner of the lens. But I have to say, I didn't notice it in this T-Series lens at all. It's really clear from corner to corner. You can see here on this wood panel as well how clear it is detailed from corner to corner. And even as I zoom into the top right here, which is where there was issues before for people, I didn't notice any softening towards that top right at all. You can get really nice, beautiful, professional, clean images from corner to corner, from side to side, from top to bottom. It really is a fantastic lens, and I really have enjoyed using this. The lens flares look really organic as well, so if you're using this in the sunny conditions and you want to add a little bit of je ne sais quoi to your shots, this is a really nice thing to add in as well, as it looks really organic. And when you have it flickering through the leaves and branches of things, it can look really stunning. Now there was one thing I want to mention which isn't major, but it's just something you may have to tackle from time to time with this lens. If you look to the bottom right of this shot, you'll see that there is a little bit of flaring in the bottom right of the lens. Now it's not a major issue. If you change the angle of your lens, you can get something really beautiful and avoid that flare, but it is something just to think about when the sun is in front of you and high up. Now let's take an in-depth look at the depth we can achieve with this lens on the iPhone 15 Pro. Now I have to say I was absolutely blown away by the sense of depth you can get with this lens, and I do stand by my statement of if you have a professional cinematographer with you, or you are a professional cinematographer watching this now, you would struggle in certain areas to see the difference between this on a 15 Pro versus a regular cinema camera or a mirrorless camera. The differences are increasingly getting smaller. Now, one of the benefits of using this lens is that you can create absolutely phenomenal focus pulls because you can get a clarity and depth. You can see here using Cinema P3 Pro camera, creating 3 different focal points, you can create something that looks really amazing, and something that you would see in a cinematic film or perhaps a TV series. You know, if you watch Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad, those kind of shows where they reveal a lot of story plot moments with focus pulls. You can have a pan like this from a shallow depth of field, revealing a deep depth of field river like this, a nice sort of background to a shot or a landscape. And I highly recommend, if you do get this lens, that you play around and experiment with focus pulls, because it is definitely one of the best things that you can use with this lens as a nice feature. Now the T-Series 58mm telephoto lens comes at a price of $150, which is a lot more than the M-Series is now. The M-Series has gone down to $99 if you want to buy that for an older model, which has a link in the description below for this video as well. And I do think that's actually a good price for this. It's a premium product, which means premium prices. It is up there with the likes of Beast Grip, I would say, so it is well worth that price. Now I have to say, this is the best smartphone filmmaking lens I have ever used. It feels so professional. It's definitely a lot more weighty than the M-Series lens, so it may need and require a stronger gimbal to use, like a smartphone specific gimbal. If you're using a hybrid, you've got no problems whatsoever, and it'll work really, really well with a handheld rig setup too. Now this is something that's going to give you a lot more depth. It's going to keep you further away from your subject, which if it's a person is going to be really great, because it means that your subject isn't going to be so nervous and aware of the camera because you're further away. It's going to give you extra depth, giving you more of that bokeh effect in the background, blurring it out. There are so many benefits to using this lens, it's unreal, and that is why it is the best lens that I've ever used so far, and I cannot recommend it enough. There is a link in the description below, and if you want to check out my reviews of Moment's T-Series fisheye lens or their wide angle lens, then check out those videos right here, right now. See you on the next one, take care, bye bye.